Disclaimer, story trading is not an investment advisor. Investing in securities involves significant risk of loss. Portions of this presentation will be posted on social media after a 7-day embargo period. Before that time period, it's going to be available to our paying members. A quick overview, what does story trading do? We're an investor network where we aim to beat Wall Street insiders at their own game through crowdsourced collaboration on the 4 pillars of fundamentals, catalyst, sentiment, and technicals in order to understand the story behind the trade. And of course, we have these Zoom events to give our VIP members an extra edge. All right, here's a quick chart of how Identiv has done since we were in here at like $5 or $6. And with that, I'm going to introduce Stephen Humphreys. I just want to first thank Gateway IR and Charlie Schumacher for bringing Stephen Humphreys here last time in July and again today. He also brought us CEO of Vista, VTSI, so appreciate that, Virtua. And actually, since Stephen was here, the stock is up 130% since his presentation on July 26th. So thank you very much for that. I do want to give a quick little intro, Steve, if you don't mind first, of our kind of involvement with Identiv before you get started. So again, first it was Chris and Florian who brought this to our attention. And, you know, I just want to give you a shout out. You guys were great because you gave us, you know, some guidance for the year and you did a really good job. You know, everything was great. So we're really looking forward to kind of hearing from you how you think 2020 went, just kind of a look back compared to your internal expectations, how you guys did, and guidance kind of for 2021. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve. Someone can unmute him.
I think I might be unmuted. Can you hear me, Ben?
Okay. Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, my voice usually comes through okay. So yeah, and I don't have a formal presentation set, as you know, Ben. I'll just give a little bit of update, which is all in the public domain. We had our earnings call a few weeks ago, and as you all saw, anybody who follows the business, because we're in the security space, which has actually been fairly resilient even with COVID. And in particular, our RFID business, which is really hitting a more secular uptrend, almost independent of economic trends, because of the deployment of a number of very interesting applications, which again we went through in detail in our earnings call, and I can go into more here if you want to. You know, our RFID business for third and fourth quarter of last year was up about 100% year over year. Our overall business was up about 30%, and for the fourth quarter, that is, of course. And we've guided. Actually, we originally guided in November. We guided to 96 to 102 million for 2021, and in our earnings call earlier in March, we raised the bottom end of our guidance. We said the bottom is going to be no lower than 100 million. We didn't update the top end of the guidance because we're still getting visibility into the second half of the year. But obviously we're starting to get some good visibility in the first half. We had also guided to around 20-25% growth for the RFID business and in the low to mid teens for the physical security business. So I think that gives you a bit of a framework. As I said, we had good growth in the fourth quarter year over year. We've increased the bottom end of our range for 2021. We also had about $3.5 million of positive cash flow from operations in the fourth quarter also. And we indicated that as we show that growth on the top line, OPEX is going to stay pretty close to flat. So gross margin dollars that we generate, the vast majority of them should be falling through to the bottom line, certainly to the EBITDA line as we go into 2021. The drivers, you know, or the core of the business projection for 21, you know, we're really not predicting anything specific about when, you know, COVID is going to reopen or anything like that. If that actually happens and we have a return to normalcy, physical security obviously is an area that has some pent up demand behind it because 2020, a lot of things weren't deployed physically. But we think there will be some snapback on that. Even independent of that, federal government, you might recall, is a big part of our business. We do all the FBI, the IRS, a lot of the Secret Service locations, a number of Army and military bases. And that part of our revenues grew about 30% also in the fourth quarter. And we expect that to continue to grow pretty aggressively as well. The new administration, doesn't agree with a lot of things across the aisle, but physical security, everybody agrees on, and they want to invest in that. So we think that'll continue to grow. And then there could be some upside snapback as we see more of the physical security market overall grow. Then the other part of the business, RFID, as I mentioned, is growing on a secular basis. And Ben, as you know, we can go into a lot of use cases, if that's useful. But in the earnings call, we went through just a half dozen very quickly. So for example, we're going into peripherals being attached to mobile devices, of which there are about 13 billion units a year. And one of the major mobile providers is launching peripherals with our RFID technology in it. Very early days, but if it penetrates deeply, we get of the order of 20 to 30 cents a unit on that. And obviously, if you can do several hundred million or a billion units, that really moves the needle. A couple of the use cases that we talked about for prescription pill bottles, our RFID tags are put on the bottom of them for visually impaired, and a couple of major pharmacies have now made that available. You can see it. We don't name customers specifically, but if you want to see an example, CVS with their Spoken RX, you can just Google CVS Spoken RX and you'll see how it works. If you're visually impaired, every prescription you get, then when the bottle is issued, they put it on a reader. And again, not naming a customer, but anybody who's using that, we provide readers that program the tag. And then when a visually impaired person gets it, they get this pill, they have no idea what's in it, this bottle, they can tap it with their phone and it reads out what the prescription is, what the content is, what the prescription protocol is, and how much they should take, et cetera. And so it's a very good use case. There's about 400 million visually impaired prescriptions annually in the US. So that again gives you a sense of the scale of a use case. And that's really what's driving the RFID part of the business, which was the fastest growing part in 20, and we expect that to stay in 21, is use cases like that, like mobile peripherals, like visually impaired prescriptions. And we think it's ultimately going to go to all prescriptions, and of which there's about 4.5 billion annually in the US. And those are the things that really are driving the growth there. It says, global corporations adopt our technology into their products, and then those volumes grow, and we grow with them. And I think that's some of what has probably moved the stock a little bit too, is people have begun to see the metrics and the delivery on the metrics, and so they can extrapolate onto the curves and the size of the market, and see that there's a long-term opportunity. So I'll pause there because I can go on and on about this, all day. But I know there's a range of folks who are familiar with the business and who might be less so. So I probably best to just kind of address, questions or discussion.
Make sure to follow us on Story Trading, YouTube, Story Trading, Twitter. Really helps us out, increase our reach. So appreciate it if you do that. And thank you very much, everyone. We will see you next week.